Hey YouTube, actually I'm kind of making this video for my brother. He had gifted me this Cort 45 guitar years ago, and I know I've thanked him a few times about that guitar because I love the guitar. Now, that guitar, I had replaced the pickups because they died. They stopped working. These older Japanese pickups, sometimes the wire that's inside, it's a wound coil, and that wire will fail. It'll just break in there, somewhere in the coil. And I replaced those pickups with these $17 Invader style pickups that were supposed to be high output, like good for aggressive music. And there's ceramic magnets, which people will say, oh, if you put a ceramic magnet pickup in your guitar, you'll start bleeding from the mouth, nose, and rectum, and dogs and cats living together. I really liked the sound of that guitar with those ceramic pickups in it. Honestly, the full story goes something like I had went to this music store that had a reputable setup guy who worked there, so they had done a lot of setups and work on other people's guitars. And what they had there was a box full of used pickups. So people would take their guitar in, like they would buy a guitar, whatever, $150, $200 cheap guitar, take it into the store, and the guy would go, oh man, you should put these pickups are junk. And a lot of times they are. They really are. The pickups that ship with a guitar, that's the first custom work people do, is replace pickups. So these were the ones that they had removed, and I just wanted something. I thought maybe I could go up there and get something good out of their junk box. So we went up there. They were called Seymour Duncan Design or Duncan Selects, something like that. Anyway, they had a plastic cover that was kind of like it had a texture to it a little bit. And those looked really cool in that guitar. Now, they didn't sound so hot. Like, if you ran them high gain with a lot of distortion on it, it sounded good, dirty. But clean, I don't know. And there was always a huge difference between the output of the bass pickup and the treble pickup was quieter. The bass pickup was really loud. So I had those Duncan Select designs in there, and like that guitar was on the boat. It went on the island. We had a little island that we kind of developed. It had a picnic table and a huge pine box with a lock. We kept a Weber grill in that. It was like a crate, I would say. Had a swing for the kids, and the river would bring in these trees, and logs would stack up on the one side of the island, so you'd have a fresh supply of firewood every time you went. Build a big bonfire. We would play music, crank up our radio, and then cook these shish kebabs, this beef, cut up an onion and a green pepper, and have a skewer, and we would eat this Armenian shish kebab marinade, which was like garlic, lemon juice, oil, and pepper. And man, it was these island shish kebabs I used to make, like it was spectacular. After a whole day of drinking beer on an island by a campfire, it is going to be good, whatever you eat. But this was some of the greatest days of my life. I spent with my family on this island, and that guitar was there. You can look for Island Jam. we played on the boat, and a cop came. He was like, just shaking his head, like, we had a bunch of amps stacked up on the hall. My daughter had a little Casio keyboard and a mic, and I was like jamming out on this pedal boat in the middle of the river. So that guitar, I'll never forget when he showed it to me. I begged him not to take it to school because I knew if he brought it to the college he was going to, his buddies that play guitar would be like offering him money for it. Like, if they saw it like I saw, because I saw it as this was the coolest guitar I had ever seen. It was just so cool. Anyway, he did take it to school, and then at Christmas that year, he had it wrapped. And I went right for that present and opened it. I was just beaming. I ran downstairs and had it on the bench. I'm tightening it and like playing around, setting it off, but you know, really rude. So that guitar, it's been around. You know, I kept it here at arm's length. I must have written 350 pieces of music on it, at least. And that was my daily player. Now, I put those Invader pickups, Invader clones, and it's wired up. I think there's a coil tap or coil split on it, maybe. But typically, I just play it. I just do the pickup selector. I use the neck pickup. It's got this like for Fendery stuff with a spring reverb. I love that sound. And the thing about that guitar was, it had brass. It's the original like brass nut and brass saddles, or they're not brass, but it's plated steel down there. That guitar, it never really played in tune. And I tried setting it up. There's only so much I can do. I don't cut nuts so much. And I tried to get the intonation, and it was getting worse and worse and worse. And I don't really have a guy. I bought a guitar recently that needed a bunch of setup work. We took it to this guy. And I made the mistake of being honest with him and told him the guy that sold me the guitar was going to foot the bill. So he kept like adding on charges, and he was like, oh, it'll be done in 2 days. And I'm like, so a week, right? And he's like, no, 2 days. And then it was like 3 weeks later, I was calling him, and he was like, oh, my son broke his tooth, and, giving me all these excuses. And he's like, I can get it to you today, but I would have to drive over there. Like, yeah, I want my fucking guitar, And I went over there, and I heard him working on it in the back. I had to wait 35 minutes. So in other words, that whole 3 weeks, he didn't touch the guitar. And this is like third coast. We have 12 techs. We have 12 benches. We've got a warehouse. We go to other music stores and take their guitars that they can't handle fixing. Like, they're really supposed to be the best, and they're highly reviewed and highly rated. So there's another guy that I know him from an advertisement in the Illinois Entertainer going back to when I was a kid, and that's Tully's shop. So my singer had given me a Les Paul Epiphone with the headstock completely cracked off, and Tully, I had glued that headstock on that guitar 5 times, and it kept cracking off. I brought it to Tully, and I'll show you this guitar. I think what he did. First he put splines in it, okay? So that's where you cut. Excuse me for walking away. I try to have my act together when I do these things, but so these are the splines that he put in, those pieces of wood. The break on this neck was typically when it breaks, it'll break at an angle like that. So the piece of wood that's on the headstock side is like this, and that kind of gives you something to glue on. This was broken like that, like 90, like, and so there's so much pressure pulling the headstock that it would break. So he put splines in there, charged me $100, which is like unheard of good deal. It's a really fair price for this big of a job. And he didn't clean it up. So yeah, he did that job for me, charged me $100. I take it home. It's in the case for a month. I go to get the guitar out because I'm recording. I'm going to use it. I figure I'll get that Les Paul because it has a real definitive sound. It's a really beefy. So I pull it out of the case and it's broken again. So I took it back into him, showed it to him, and he was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm like, well, the ball's in your court. Let me know when it's fixed. He's like, are you in a hurry? I'm like, of course not. Take your time. But the important thing is that when I get it back the next time, it doesn't, you know. So, 3.5 years go by. Finally, I call him up because I have a cort that I couldn't set up. Somebody, Jimmy Photon, bought me a semi-hollow body Strat. Just bought me a guitar. Didn't ask him for it, didn't say I wanted it. Actually, the guitar I had on my list, I would like to get a lightweight SG. Any kind of headless guitar that's lightweight, I would like, or a 3/5 a semi-hollow body, or a Tele. I don't have a Telecaster. Those would be the guitars I would think I would want to try. You know, I haven't really tried an SG. SGs, you can get light ones. So he buys me this gift, which is just incredible that someone would do that. And I ended up replacing everything on the guitar except the 4 screws that hold the neck in, the neck plate, and the body and the neck. Like literally everything on the guitar was replaced because the parts that guitar shipped with, in my opinion, those parts are absolute fucking garbage. They're just trash. It's just garbage. So, and it's a nice guitar. So I'm not good with setup, like I said, and I kept monkeying with it, and I was really disparaged. So I called Tully. I don't say anything about the Les Paul. Donna and I go down there, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to bring that Cort 45. So I brought the Cort 45. I brought the cort, and I said, look, do you have my Les Paul? So he did. And what he had done, he had taken a syringe with cyanoacrylate super glue and shot super glue all in here. So this is now, it's not at an angle. Normally a Les Paul headstock will be like, you see my hand, it'll be more like this. This headstock part will be more, let me show you this way. Say here's this part of my arm is the guitar neck and this is the headstock. Normally on a Les Paul, the headstock is like this, okay? And on this guitar, it's like straight, but it's stable. It's stable. I tuned this guitar 2 months ago, and I grabbed it and played it. It's still in tune, which means that thing isn't moving. So I said to Tully, listen, I paid you for this job, and it didn't really work out. Because at the time when I said, do you have my Les Paul when we were there, this guitar, there was no tension on the strings. The strings were loose. And I didn't know it was fixed. I mean, technically, a pro would probably not want that because it's not proper. It doesn't have the angle. I don't care. I mean, is this guitar going to last forever? I don't know. If I bump the headstock, it's probably going to come flying off of there. But the point is, I wasn't really happy because, you know, at that point, I mean, I didn't know it was fixed. I thought it was broken still. So I just got a call from Tully. He said that the cort is jangly as hell. He said it's turned out good, the setup. He had to cut the knot and do, you know, blah, blah, blah. Then he said the Cort 45 does have a kink in the neck, but he got it to play in tune. He cut the nut slots, and he said the intonation on the adjusters of the saddles was all crazy, which I had done that, which just goes to show PD's a goof. PD does not know how to set up guitars. I'm trying to learn how to do all that stuff, and I've got friends that know how to do it or claim that they know how to do it. I don't know. All I know is I am so unbelievably happy. I cannot tell you how overjoyed that I took that guitar to a pro. That Cort 45 that Bjorn gave me, I'm praying that when I get it back here, I'm going to be like, and I know I am. I know how good this guy, his work is. That he's like a wizard. He set up guitars for Dimebag Darrell. He's a pro, And I know some of the companies he's worked for, and he had his own guitar that he built that was a high performance guitar. And Tully is a real deal. He's one of the best. So I'm going to be getting those guitars back on Friday. I cannot absolutely wait, and I just wanted to tell that whole story about that Cort 45 guitar and how it's going to be back in my life, and it's going to be better than it ever was, because see, that guitar never played right. It was always goofy as hell, like the worst guitar in the whole collection as far as the intonation, which means the strings playing in tune with each other, with it sounding like it's, when you play a chord, every note is perfectly in tune. That thing was whacked. It was horrible. And he said, yes, he did a significant amount of work to it. There is a kink in the neck. He can't fix that. But so I'm super excited about it. I definitely will do video when I get the guitar back. So thanks again to my younger brother. You have no idea how big of a deal that guitar is to me. No one ever gave me anything like that. Now, Jimmy Photon gave me this Cozart, which I honestly don't think I will play that like I played the Cort 45. And the reason that I play the Cort 45 so much is because it's so small and lightweight and ergonomic. It just fits. Like, you grab that guitar and you've got it on, like, you don't notice it. It's really, it just blends into your body very well, and it's very comfortable, and it's so easy for me to write on that, to write music. So I'm blessed. I really am. I'm so lucky to have such a cool little brother who didn't, he could have got money for it. One of his buddies would have paid him. He gave me the best gift I ever got in my life, was that guitar. It really was. As far as like somebody giving me something that I used the most, that's it, man. Hands down. My wife gave me a guitar synthesizer, and that got me into recording music. It had drums in it. So that's probably the second greatest gift, but man, that Cort 45, that takes the cake. So thanks, Bjorn. It's a big deal to me, and I really do appreciate it. All right, you guys. Thanks again for putting up with me on this thing. Hug your pets, and peace.